Available for $100 less at $399. So this starts off at $499. This gives you that retina display and a few new features. This is pretty much a spec upgrade from the third generation. Now the fourth generation adds a few new features. One of them is a new high-def FaceTime camera, which has a 1.2 megapixel instead of the horrible VGA camera that used to be in here. We also have the new lightning connector. We also have new cellular technology in here, which now makes this more compatible with a variety of LTE carriers, not just AT&T and Verizon. So this means this is now available on Sprint and other global carriers. The big change is internal, so we now have an A6X processor replacing the A5X processor. So you can basically think of this as the iPhone 5 processor plus quad-core graphics, so that's the X in that equation. Quad-core graphics is needed to power the retina display on this tablet. Now the design of the iPad is unchanged. Really the only visible difference is the new lightning connector, which is now smaller. Now another change in here relates to the power adapter. So they've added a 12-watt power adapter to increase charging speed. So we go from 10 watt from the iPad third generation to 12 watt. So that shaves off about 30 minutes off the charging time. Now on the back you'll find your capacity along with reference to the fact that this requires iTunes 11 or later. Unfortunately iTunes 11 has been delayed a month at the time of this filming, so we won't be able to use that, but of course you can still use iTunes 10 to sync up your new iPad. Alright, so let's go ahead and crack this open and take a look around. All right, so we're just going to pop the lid here. Come on, there we go. So here we have the iPad in its plastic envelope. We're going to take a look at this in just a minute while we cover the accessories. So here we have the new 12-watt power supply. So we're just going to peel this off and slide it out. And there you go. Same as the 10 watt, looks about the same. So you still have that removable adapter. In the US, these are foldable, so you can travel with this a little more conveniently. And of course, you have your USB connector. And in fact, on the bottom, if you look, you'll see 12 watt USB power adapter. Now, taking a quick look at the literature packet here, we have designed by Apple in California. If we pop this open, we should find, among other things, we have our Quick Start Guide, which is basically a single piece pamphlet which tells you about the buttons and controls. We have our warranty and Apple information, and of course we have our Apple stickers. Below that is our USB to lightning connector. Again, that nice smaller lightning connector here. As you can see, it's very tiny, very small, and can handle the power required for the iPad. Now getting back to the iPad, we're just going to peel open this envelope. So you just pull this tab here. Nice sound. Slide it out. Now taking a look around, you can see the only immediately noticeable change here is that smaller lightning connector. Otherwise, everything is still the same. So we still have that mono speaker back here, which fires toward the side and back. On the side, we have our plastic volume up and down buttons, as well as our rotation lock or mute switch, depending on how you have that configured. You also have your sleep wake button. You have your 5 megapixel iSight camera. We have your microphone up top, as well as our headphone jack. At the center, we'll find our black Apple logo, as well as iPad. No capacity information is indicated. Now on the front, we'll find our classic home button. And at the top, we'll find our new 1.2 megapixel FaceTime camera capable of recording video at 720p. You also find if you look really closely, you'll see the ambient light sensor just above it. Now let's go ahead and start this up just by pressing and holding the power button at top. So there we go, we have the iPad with that beautiful retina display. Still the same resolution as the last generation iPad, so let's go ahead and set this up so we can connect to our wireless network here. Alright, so I'm done setting up my iPad and I can start using it. Alright, so there we go, that's all there is to it. We have the standard fresh installation of iOS 6, and the first thing I want to do is explore the one major new feature here, which is that new A6X processor. So I'm going to download a benchmarking utility to show you guys really quickly. Now when you launch the App Store for the first time with a new installation of iOS 6, they do encourage you to download several apps that are not included. That includes iBooks, iTunes U, Podcasts, Find My Friends, and Find My iPhone. So I'm going to download all those for free as well. Now if we look at the Geekbench app, we can actually take a look at some of our stats here. So we have our processor, which is running at 1.39 gigahertz. Again, this is the A6X dual-core processor with quad-core graphics. We also still have 1 gig of RAM that's unchanged from the third generation. So here we have our Geekbench score, and Apple did claim claim that the A6X processor would double the performance of the third generation iPad. And if we look at the third generation iPad, it actually more than doubled, at least in this benchmark. So you can see that they are true to their claim. So this is a much more powerful tablet than it was before. Now, just to show you the only visible change here from the third generation to the fourth generation, which is that Lightning connector, again, much smaller than that 30-pin dock. All right, guys, so that's going to do for me in this video. I will have a detailed comparison between this and the third generation iPad, so I'm going to do more benchmarking and some real-world speed tests like I always do. And of course, we have the iPad mini coming up here, so stay tuned for that video. And until then, see you again in the next one.